In the humid, moss-draped swamps of Georgia, a prehistoric shadow moves silently beneath the surface of the Blackwater. It is a creature that has remained virtually unchanged for millions of years, a master of stealth and a cornerstone of the American South. But recently, a massive experiment was launched that sounded like something out of a science fiction movie. The state of Georgia initiated a specialized relocation project, moving thousands of alligators into a brand new, protected territory that had been largely devoid of these apex predators for decades. Some called it a brilliant move for biodiversity, while others worried it would be an ecological disaster. But 1 year later, when the researchers returned to the release sites, they found a landscape that was unrecognizable. What happened next wasn't just a change in the local animal population, it was a total transformation of the earth, the water, and the very air of the Georgia wetlands. To understand why this project was so significant, you first have to realize that an alligator is not just another animal in the swamp. Biologists call them ecosystem engineers. This means they don't just live in the environment, they actively build it. For years, certain remote areas of Georgia's interior wetlands had been suffering. The water was stagnant, the biodiversity was plummeting, and invasive species were taking over. The local government decided on a bold move. If the swamp was fading, they would bring back the original architects to fix it. The relocation process was a monumental task. Cestating, transporting and tracking thousands of powerful reptiles, some of which measured over 10 feet long. This wasn't a weekend job. It involved teams of wildlife experts, specialized airboats, and heavy-duty transport units. Each alligator was carefully tagged with a satellite transmitter, allowing scientists to watch their every move in real time. As the massive trailers backed up to the edge of the new territory and the first gates were opened, a heavy silence fell over the swamp. The alligators slid into the water and vanished. For months, the only sign of their presence was the occasional ping on a computer screen. But beneath the surface, a revolution was beginning. The first big surprise came just 3 months into the project. Researchers noticed that the water levels in the release areas were staying consistent, even during an unusually dry summer. In neighboring swamps without alligators, the water was drying up into mud flats. Why was this happening? It turns out the alligators had immediately started digging what are known as gator holes. Using their powerful tails and snouts, they cleared out muck and vegetation to create deep pools. These holes act as emergency reservoirs. During the dry season, these pools become the only source of water for miles. But they aren't just for the alligators. Thousands of fish, turtles, and wading birds flock to these gator holes to survive the heat. By simply trying to keep themselves cool, the alligators had created a lifeline for the entire local food chain. But that was just the beginning. By the 6-month mark, the vegetation in the swamp began to shift in a way that no one had predicted. In the absence of large predators, smaller mammals like nutria and raccoons had been overgrazing the delicate marsh grasses for years. These invasive nutria in particular were like lawnmowers, eating the roots of the plants and causing massive soil erosion. 1 year after the alligators arrived, the nutria population had developed a very healthy sense of caution. They weren't being wiped out, but they were moving away from the open water and the lush banks. This gave the marsh grasses a chance to grow back. For the first time in 20 years, the banks of the Georgia interior wetlands were stable. The soil was firming up, and the erosion had stopped. One of the most beautiful and unexpected changes was the return of the birds. If you asked a casual observer what would happen if you put thousands of alligators in a swamp, they might think the birds would be in danger. The reality was the exact opposite. Tall, wading birds like egrets and herons began building nests in the trees directly above the alligator-filled waters in record numbers. Why? Because alligators are the world's best security guards. Raccoons and opossums are the primary threats to bird eggs, and these small predators are terrified of alligators. By nesting over gator-patrolled water, the birds found a safe haven. The alligators got the occasional fallen scrap, and the birds got a fortress that no nest robber dared to enter. 1 year later, the sky over the new area was white with the wings of thousands of successful fledglings. But perhaps the most profound change was one that couldn't be seen with the naked eye. It was found in the water chemistry. Researchers taking samples discovered that the oxygen levels in the water had surged. In a stagnant swamp, decaying vegetation often uses up all the oxygen, leading to a swamp that smells like rotten eggs and supports very little life. The alligators, Through their constant movement and digging, were aerating the water. They were acting like giant scaly stirring spoons. This increased oxygen allowed beneficial bacteria to thrive, which broke down toxins and clarified the water. The murky, tea-colored water had become significantly clearer, allowing sunlight to reach the bottom and sparking the growth of underwater plants that hadn't been seen there in a generation. As the one-year anniversary of the project approached, the human element of the story began to take a surprising turn as well. Initially, local communities were skeptical, even fearful. They worried about their pets and their safety. But as the health of the swamp improved, something interesting happened. The fishing in the surrounding lakes became the best it had been in decades. Because the alligators were protecting the nursery areas for fish and keeping the invasive species in check, the populations of bass and sunfish exploded. Suddenly, the people who were most against the project became its biggest supporters. The alligators hadn't just fixed the swamp, they had revitalized the local economy. The scientists were also tracking the social behavior of the relocated alligators. They found that these ancient reptiles were much more adaptable than previously thought. Instead of fighting over territory, the thousands of newcomers seemed to establish a complex social hierarchy that allowed them to share the vast new resources efficiently. They observed older, larger males taking up residence in the deep center channels, while younger alligators utilized the smaller peripheral streams. This distribution ensured that the engineering work, the digging and clearing was happening across the entire landscape, not just in one spot. By the end of the first year, the team released their final report, and the title could have simply been, "The Swamp is Breathing Again." The project proved that the best way to restore a complex ecosystem isn't through machines or chemicals, but by reintroducing the keystone species that belongs there. The alligator isn't a monster of the swamp. It is the guardian of it. Their presence had triggered a trophic cascade, a series of positive events that tumbled down through every level of the environment, from the largest bird to the smallest blade of grass. But there was one final, truly unexpected discovery. Satellite imagery showed that the newly restored wetlands were actually helping to cool the local microclimate. With more standing water and denser vegetation, the area was experiencing slightly lower peak temperatures during the summer than the surrounding developed land. The swamp was acting as a giant air conditioner for the region. This was a benefit that no one had even put on the original proposal. Yet it was one of the most significant for the future of the state. The Georgia alligator experiment has now become a blueprint for nature projects worldwide. It showed that we need to trust the natural processes that have governed our planet for eons. When we move these animals, we aren't just moving individuals. We are moving an ancient wisdom that knows exactly how to heal the earth. The swamp today is a vibrant, noisy, thriving cathedral of life. The bellowing of the alligators during the spring nights is no longer a sound of fear, but a song of a world that has been put back together. What happened in Georgia reminds us that our wild spaces are resilient, but they need their champions. Sometimes those champions have scales and sharp teeth. 1 year later, everything had changed, and for the people and wildlife of Georgia, it was a change that promised a greener, wetter, and more vibrant future. The experiment was a resounding success, proving that when we give nature the tools it needs, it can perform miracles that even the most advanced science is only beginning to understand. As we look at the success of the Georgia project, it raises the question, where else could this work? Biologists are now looking at other areas where keystone species have been lost. Could the return of top-level predators fix the dry forests of the West or the coastal marshes of the Northeast? The Georgia alligators have provided the data, and the data says yes. The key is balance. It begins to crumble. When you put the right piece back in the puzzle, the whole picture becomes clear again. The birds are back, the water is clean, the fish are plentiful, and the swamp is stable, all because of a decision to let a prehistoric architect go back to work. If you ever find yourself in the backwaters of Georgia, and you see two glowing eyes reflecting the moonlight from the water's surface, don't just see a predator, see a builder, see a protector. See the creature that saved the swamp. It is a humbling thought that after all our technological advancements, we still rely on the simple instinctual behaviors of a reptile to keep our world healthy. The alligators didn't know they were part of a multi-million-dollar state project. They didn't know they were being watched by satellites. They were just being alligators. They were digging, swimming, and hunting exactly as their ancestors did 60 million years ago. And in doing so, they showed us that the best way to plan for the future of our planet is to look at the wisdom of its past. This story is a powerful reminder that every creature, no matter how intimidating or misunderstood, has a vital role to play. The success in Georgia is a beacon of hope for conservationists everywhere. It shows that it is never too late to fix what has been broken. As long as we are willing to take bold steps and respect the power of the natural world, the alligators are home. And because of that, the swamp is finally whole again. The transformation was so complete that researchers found new species of orchids and aquatic ferns growing in the clearings made by the alligators, plants that hadn't been recorded in those specific counties for over half a century. The seeds had been lying dormant in the mud, waiting for the right conditions. They were waiting for the alligators to return. This seed bank revival was the ultimate proof that the ecosystem hadn't been gone. It had just been sleeping, waiting for its guardian to wake it up. As the sun sets over the Georgia wetlands now, the sound of life is deafening. The croaking of frogs, the splashing of fish, and the calls of the herons all blend into a symphony of a restored world. And beneath it all is the steady, quiet presence of the alligators, sliding through the water they helped clean, resting in the holes they helped dig, and ensuring that the swamp remains a sanctuary for generations to come. The experiment didn't just change the area. It changed our understanding of what is possible when we work with nature instead of trying to control it. Georgia's bold move paid off in ways no one could have dreamed, and the world is a better, wilder place for it. In the coming years, the state intends to expand the program, identifying more silent swamps that need a little help from their scaly friends. The alligator effect is now a recognized phenomenon in ecology, studied by universities across the country. It's a testament to the fact that in nature, nothing exists in a vacuum. Every action has a reaction, and in this case, the reaction was a cascade of life that revitalized a dying landscape. For the people of Georgia, the alligators have become a symbol of pride. They represent a state that was willing to take a risk to save its natural heritage. And for the alligators themselves, they simply have more room to roam, more fish to eat, and a vital job to do. The prehistoric architects are back on the clock, and the future of the American South looks a little bit more like the ancient, beautiful world it was always meant to be. The story of the Georgia alligator relocation is a testament to the power of ecological restoration. It challenges our perceptions of dangerous animals and forces us to look at the bigger picture. When we see the swamp through the eyes of an ecologist, we see a complex, beautiful machine where every part, no matter how small or how toothy, is essential. The lessons learned here will echo in conservation projects for decades to come, reminding us all that we share this planet with incredible beings who are just as much a part of the Earth's health as we are. As the project enters its second and third years, the data continues to impress. The soil nutrients are more balanced, the tree canopy is thickening, and the local climate continues to show signs of stabilization. It's a win-win-win scenario. A win for the animals, a win for the environment, and a win for the humans who share this incredible landscape. The unexpected results of the Georgia alligator release have turned into a lasting legacy of hope, proving once and for all that nature knows best. And sometimes, all we need to do is get out of the way and let the experts, the alligators, handle the job. So the next time you think about the wild, don't think of it as something far away or something to be feared. Think of it as a vital living system that we are privileged to be a part of. And remember the alligators of Georgia, who in just 1 year, turned a stagnant marsh into a thriving paradise. Their story is a reminder that beauty can be found in the most unexpected places, even in the snapping jaws of a swamp guardian. The prehistoric past and the hopeful future have met in the black waters of Georgia, and the result is nothing short of a miracle. With every satellite ping and every new gator hole dug, we learn more about this incredible partnership. It's a journey of discovery that is only just beginning. As the thousands of alligators continue to settle into their new home, they aren't just surviving, they are leading. They are showing us how to be better stewards of our planet, one swamp at a time. Through their eyes, we see a world where humans and wild creatures can flourish together, in a balanced, healthy, and vibrant ecosystem that stands the test of time. The Georgia Release Project is a shining example of what happens when science, policy, and nature align. It's a story of courage, patience, and ultimately triumph. 1 year later, everything had changed. But that was just the start. The real impact of this project will be felt for centuries. as these alligator-engineered wetlands continue to provide a home for countless species and a buffer for our changing world. The architects are back, and the swamp has never looked better. As we move forward into a new era of conservation, let the story of the Georgia alligators be our guide. Let's look for the keystone species in our own lives and our own environments. Let's find the courage to reintroduce the parts of our world that we've lost. And let's always remember that even the most seldom seen or feared creatures may be the very ones holding the world together. The black waters of Georgia are no longer a mystery. They are a message. A message of resilience, of balance, and of the incredible power of life to thrive when given the chance. The prehistoric shadows continue to move, but now they move in a world that welcomes them. The thousands of alligators are no longer just transplants. They are the heart and soul of the Georgia wetlands. And in their silent, powerful presence, we find a reason to believe in a greener tomorrow. The experiment is over, the results are in, and the swamp has been saved. 1 year later, the world has learned a powerful lesson. Never underestimate the power of an alligator with a job to do.